how do I invest in real estate basically from nothing, no money, no experience? Like what is my entryway?
Yeah. So if we want to own rental properties, let's say that's the end goal. Let's say you want to have 20 rental properties that bring you $6,000 in passive income a month. Let's just say that's a goal. That can happen in 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years. It's absolutely achievable. The reality is, I don't really like having partners on rental properties. I want you to own 100% of those rental properties. Once you start, you buy a single family house, and let's say you have 4 partners on it and the cash flow is $400 a month. Now you get $100 of that 400 if you had partners, and it just becomes very messy. You have more partners, someone gets married, they want to sell the property, and causes more issues, and it's just more work than anticipated. So what we like to do, and the goal for you would be for you to put the down payment on the property. And for an investment property, you can put 20% down, right? There's houses, we have clients, we have students, we have partners buying houses sub $100,000 across the United States, down payments of $15,000. And so for you, like one example, Max at our company, right, bought that property with a $15,000 down payment, cash flows $500 a month. So the goal now is, how do you get $15,000 of extra capital to invest into this piece of real estate, right? So money doesn't fall out of thin air. I'm not a trust fund baby. Pretty sure you're not. We're not just gifted money. We have to work hard for our money. So if you're faced with the situation of most Americans, you have a job and you get a 3% raise every single year, it's gonna be a very slow path to acquiring these rentals, right? So the goal was like, how do I get started? I don't have a lot of capital. I don't have extra capital. Maybe I have no money. Maybe I'm in debt already. Maybe you have credit card debt. Maybe you have student loans already that you have to pay off, that are accruing debt. This is where wholesaling is that starting point, right? Wholesaling, what wholesaling is a way to make capital in real estate without having any capital. And I'll just dive right into it, because this is really the starting point, right? We need capital to buy these rental properties. How do you acquire this capital as fast, as easy as possible? So with wholesaling real estate, what we're doing when you wholesale real estate is you find a distressed property first, right? You find a distressed property that someone else is going to want to buy, typically a fix and flipper. You put that property under contract at a particular purchase price, let's say $180,000. You put it under contract to buy. Now, it doesn't cost any money to put a property under contract. Doesn't cost any money to sign a contract, all right? You're not actually buying the property, and you're protecting yourself with backup clauses, so you're not liable to buy the property. So you're finding a distressed property that someone else will want. You put it under contract and you sell it to that other person that wants it. So let's say you put it under contract at $180,000, and then you sell it for $200,000. Now you make the difference between $180,000 and $200,000. That's $20,000 of a profit for what we like to call assigning the contract, which is when you just transfer the rights, your ownership, your equitable interest to buy the property. You're transferring those rights to buy the property to this other person that we call a cash buyer or a company. They want to buy this property because they want to fix and flip it. They know that, hey, if I fix and flip this and take on more risk and spend 3, 4, 5, 6 months flipping it, they're going to make $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 on that deal. That's why they're buying the deal from you. And so once you do that, this is where, in 14 days or less, right? A lot of these wholesale deals we do, we're closing in 14 days or less from the time we put under contract to the time we actually sell it and profit that $10,000 or $20,000 on a deal. Right. So that's really wholesaling at a high level. And what that allows you to do is now make an active income in real estate. And once again, it's easy for me to connect the dots, but the important thing is, you're learning, when you wholesale real estate and you successfully wholesale it and you make $10,000 or $20,000 on that deal, that was a deal that you got under market value that someone else wanted, and you are now learning how to find good deals. And as a real estate investor who wants to build wealth, right, as someone who wants to invest not only in ETFs or stocks, but actually real estate and wants to get started, this is the best way to get started with no risk because you have backup clauses. Doesn't cost any money to put a property under contract. You don't have to swing any hammers. You don't have to fix the property. And so now the only risk is your time. And a lot of us have time, right? Whether we know it or not. Yeah. And so that's why I recommend wholesaling to get started. The other kicker is, like, you could say, like, oh, I want to get started in real estate. Let me get a real estate license.
Yeah.
Well, you can do this without a real estate license. You know, a real estate license can take several months, 6 months. You know, maybe you don't pass the test the first time, you got to redo it. You don't pass that test a few times, you got to wait a whole year. And so if that's your only knowledge or entry point to get started in real estate, you can hold yourself back, as well as there's a lot of fees and, you know, associations you then have to be a part of to do that. Whereas with wholesaling, if you have the knowledge, you could start tomorrow and do your first deal in 14, 30 days.
Yeah. From what I hear, the real estate license test is quite difficult. I have probably 3 people in my life right now who have to take a second test at this point. So, I mean, it's really good to know that you don't need a license, because that's also a hurdle I've been thinking about. But also, like, it seems a little too good to be true. So, like, my next question would be, like, do you think, like, is this legal? And if it isn't in some states, like, why?
Yeah, so wholesaling is absolutely legal. The way that I put it is anything can really be illegal if you do it the wrong way, right? So I have a driver's license, I drive on the right side of the road and it's completely fine. If I decide to drive on the wrong side of the road on head-on traffic, that's illegal. I'm gonna hurt myself or hurt someone else. So there's a right and wrong way to do things. What we teach is the right way to do things. You know, any states that have specific laws or regulations on this, there's ways to do it the right way, right? We read the laws, we read the regulations. One of the biggest stipulations is that most people confuse the distinction between a real estate agent and wholesaler. When you're wholesaling, you're selling the contract rights, right? As I talked about earlier. I'm not selling a house. Selling a house is the job of a real estate agent. That's what you need to be licensed for. So when I'm selling the actual contract rights, that's not going to be illegal. And then the way we've done things as well, we always structure partnerships, JV partnerships with our cash buyers, people that buy our properties. Before we ever go out and find a property, we have separate agreements with them. So, you know, a couple states, for example, don't want you to assign the contract or get paid for that assignment. So then we just don't get paid for the assignment. We already have a separate JV agreement. We're not marketing a property. We're not marketing a contract. We are a deal finding company. We are a deal finding acquisitions arm for these companies that want deals. And so we just always structure it the right way so that we're always in the clear, abiding by the law, abiding by every single state's regulations.
Right. So the long and short of it, and forgive me or please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm essentially finding properties that an investor will be interested in, putting it under contract, selling them the contract because it's like, okay, well, they found a really good opportunity for me that I might be interested in. I'm going to basically pay them for that time and that effort, right?
Yeah, and just to have it make, you know, even more sense, because you might be thinking this, or a lot of people think this, like, why the heck would they pay me $10,000 or $20,000? Yeah. So let's talk about fix and flippers. These are the people that are buying these properties from us. You have to understand their business model, right? What do fix and flippers have to do? If they want to flip 100 houses in a year, they're usually investing a significant amount of capital every single month into marketing every single year. And I'm talking, you know, $1 million isn't, you know, off the table for them to invest in a year. $100,000 a month in marketing isn't off the table for them to invest into a deal, to invest into marketing. So when you can bring them a deal that, in this example, say they pay you $10,000 for, and at the very least they make $30,000 of profit after they flip it, that's a 3-to-1 ROI on their money. If they invest $10,000, they make $30,000. I'm talking profit here. I'm not talking about, you know, $30,000 minus $10,000, they make $20,000. I'm talking about a 3-to-1 return. Some deals they'll make $40,000, $50,000. They pay you $10,000 on it. So I think any business owner, once you start looking at it that level, would you pay $10,000 to make $30,000? Yeah. What about $10,000 to make $40,000? Yeah. $10,000 to make $50,000?
Right.
For sure. So when you look at a fix and flipper, what would they have done? What do they have to do to get this deal that you already got under contract? Because at this point, once you have a deal under contract, all the cash buyer needs to do is sign the assignment agreement saying, hey, I want this deal, and now they have ownership of it, and now they can close on it, and now they can flip it. Like, literally, they just need to sign a piece of paper.
Right.
That's very simple. Now, if in their own company they want to acquire deals, which they do, they have to pay $100,000 a month in marketing. That deal by itself, for them to acquire it through their marketing, might have costed $10,000 anyways. So look at it as you're getting paid a marketing expense. You've found the deal for them. So instead of them paying $10,000 to acquire a deal, they're just paying you $10,000 to acquire a deal. Yeah. It's another avenue, another stream for them to get deals. On top of that, fix and flipper, they're doing 100 deals a year. They have other employees that are finding these deals. They're paying commissions out to these people. Sometimes the cost to acquire a deal for them is more than $10,000. So in some ways, they're getting a deal working for you, or working with you and paying you for these deals. So, what's really important is understanding the fix and flippers business model, that you're saving them money in a lot of ways. You're saving them a lot of headache in a lot of ways. They didn't have to train you to find this deal. You found this deal, right? This wasn't a 6-month training process as an employee where they had to shadow them for them to be able to find a deal and get a deal brought to them. So you're saving them a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of resources. They didn't need to hire you to find this deal for them. So that's the value you provide. At the end of the day, if you just look at it as you get paid $10,000 and they get a 3 or 4x return on it, anyone in mostly anyone in their right mind would do that. Right.
Be on the lookout for the next video in this series. And if you want to build a hyper-profitable wholesaling and flipping business, then check out my full in-depth training at realestateskills.com/watch. See you there, and happy wholesaling.